Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Halloween time is just around the corner. California residents get a deal on multi-day tickets.
New Disney 100 eats. One mountain closes while another reopens. We continue our chat with Illustrator Rick Law and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard the DL Weekly podcast. Please lower your head and watch your step while boarding. If this is your first time listening, we hope you'll check out our website at DLWeekly.net. If you have more time to spend, becoming an official weekly tier at DLWeekly.net/support is an especially good value. Thanks for traveling with us today, and we hope you have a happy and memorable listen to this week's episode.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of June 7th, 2023. I'm Teresa Urban.
And I'm Tag Bushman. We'd like to send a shout out and a big thank you to Michael C. for increasing their support and being official weekly tier. We also want to send a shout out to Nolan S., Emily K., Emily C., and Cam A. for continuing your support. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, access to our Discord community, and more. Also, depending on which level you get to, you get a monthly bonus episode, which we just recorded today. So that'll be up sometime later this month. So if you want to hear that and all of our back catalog of all that stuff, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join.
So if you are a current supporter or if you've been on the fence about becoming a supporter, stay tuned for our first news story. We've got a pretty exciting announcement for you.
Now let's get to the news.
Well, it seems impossible, but Halloween time at the Disneyland Resort is just around the corner. This year, the Oogie Boogie Bash will take place on 25 select nights from September 5th through October 31st. The Plaza de la Familia and tributes to Dia de los Muertos are also back from September 1st through November 2nd. Of course, the Haunted Mansion Holiday, Guardians of the Galaxy, Monsters After Dark, Mater's Graveyard Jamboree, and Luigi's Honkin' Halloween are back, along with the Halloween Screams fireworks at Disneyland.
Okay, I don't think any of us are surprised that the Oogie Boogie Bash is back and that all of these things. I mean, Halloween, I would say after Christmas, Halloween is definitely the biggest celebration at the resort.
Some might argue it is big.
Biggest?
It's tough. It's tough to say which one's the bigger one.
I think if I had to pick my favorite of the two, actually, of any of them, to be honest, I would probably pick Halloween time. I really like how Disney's done it.
I think Halloween time's my favorite time of the resorts, too. However,
which is also what screwed us on our after-hours stuff, too.
Yes, holiday time, however, very magical.
Oh, yes.
It's very, if I lived in Southern California and, could just bop on over to the parks as I wanted, I would spend a lot of time in Disneyland during Halloween time, but also during the holiday time too, because it just seems very magical.
Yeah, and I think that the Oogie Boogie Bash is definitely the premier after-hours extra ticketed event.
We can confidently say that now that we have done another after-hours ticketed
we've done
event.
2 Oogie Boogie Bashes, right?
3 for me.
Well, she's done 3, I've done 2, so 5 between us, I guess. And we've we've did the Star Wars night. Mm-hmm. I think our Star Wars night was 2 things. I think one is it was a busy night because it was May the 4th, but also the weather.
Yeah,
so I think it would have been different if those weren't the things. But of the things that were announced coming, by the way, did you see the little teaser?
I did.
What do you think the gingerbread house is going to be?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. There's this fun little teaser. We, of course, will have the link in the show notes from the Disney Parks blog of them kind of unwrapping. I think this is so fun for the gingerbread houses. So the first teaser looks like print of a package, and it says "Don't peek, you'll spoil your surprise, Sandy Claus." And then the next photo, there's some tears in the paper, and we can see some of the ghosts that live in Halloween Town. Very, very clearly, we can see 0, but they're kind of giving us little hints as to what the gingerbread house is going to look like. I'm not sure. There's a pink lumpy thing in the corner.
Or something.
And there's some like a thing under your bed or something that's in the middle. I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah.
How many of these gingerbread houses have there been? Last year was the 25th anniversary of Haunted Mansion Holiday. But every year these gingerbread houses are just better and better and more creative. The people that design these, amazing, absolutely amazing. And every year, I know I look forward to what are they coming up with next.
This will be the 22nd
22nd.
gingerbread house.
Okay, there you go. 22nd gingerbread house.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what it'll be. It'll be exciting, whatever it is.
You're right. Was it the 20th anniversary last year?
21. Right here. 2021.
I have merch, though. We bought merch.
Yeah, we bought it not at the party, though. Because this is an article right here talking about all the different years, remember? And this is 2021.
So, okay. I thought we...
Because we went in 2021 and we went in 2022.
I know. I thought it was last year that we bought the...
Nope.
Got it. So, 20th anniversary. 24... Okay, whatever. I'm confused.
Well, what are you not confused about, Teresa? What are you dying to tell everybody?
What am I dying to tell everybody? Well...
Dying, that works out well.
Just dying to tell everyone. So, as everyone knows, our favorite thing to do at the parks is go visit the Oogie Boogie Bash. So this year, we decided to celebrate a little differently. So Tag and I are trying to make it out again for an Oogie Boogie Bash night this year. But...
3 years in a row.
We wanted to spread some excitement, and one lucky official weekly tier, one of our patrons, will be getting a ticket to an Oogie Boogie Bash party night, courtesy of DL Weekly. So this will be a giveaway. Again, this is to all current and, well, future. So if you've been on the fence, you can go ahead and you can sign up to become a patron of DL Weekly. So this is a fun giveaway we're doing. We have not decided what date yet. We may be doing something like maybe if we figure out what our date is, if you want to come that same date, whatever. We'll get into those details later, but we wanted to let everyone know now we will be giving this away within the next 2 weeks. We'll be picking a name. So DL Weekly is giving away
What's
an
the
Oogie
date?
Boogie Bash
What's the
ticket.
date that we're...
So the first date that these go on sale is the 24th, and we want to make sure that you can get your ticket. So Oogie Boogie Bash tickets, can you go on there?
Right here,
whoops,
June
I'm sorry.
27th.
Oogie Boogie Bash tickets go on sale June 27th. So we want to make sure that you get the night that you're, the night that you want. We want to figure out all those details. So 2 weeks from today, June 21st, we will be drawing one lucky weekly tier's name for this giveaway.
And it's one ticket.
One ticket, yes. And yes, you do not have to enter, you don't have to enter a drawing. We will throw all supporters' names into a hat.
Currently active supporter.
Yep, if you're an active supporter, your name will get thrown into the hat for us to pick a supporter. Now, if you get picked and you want to pass it along to the next one, that's totally fine. We will pick another name. So we will make sure that one lucky weekly tier will get to enjoy Oogie Boogie Bash courtesy of DL Weekly. We thought it'd be such a fun way to show our support and love, not only for Halloween time, but also to all of our amazing, amazing supporters that have been with us through the years. How many? We're on year?
It'll be six this year.
So it's just incredible to us that you all have supported us and have been with us on this fun journey. So we thought, why not do something fun for all of you?
We're also going to have to try to plan something because we have 2 anniversaries coming up, and I'd like to do something for probably just for one of them. Because one thing I kind of messed up myself. One is we have our 300th episode coming up, but I think I won't be here for that episode.
Oh, yeah, you did mess that up.
And then, but we have our 6th year anniversary, which is our September 20th episode, which I actually think is a day. It is a day that the podcast comes out. So I'm thinking that we should try to do some type of cool weekly tier, DL Weekly 6-year celebration for the episode we record on the 19th that goes on the 20th. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out because I think it'll be fun. Thanks, guys. Well, California residents have a new ticket deal for this summer. The deal allows guests to visit the parks for 3 days for as little as $83 a day. There is a slight catch. The tickets are not valid on Fridays through Sundays at that price. To upgrade to a ticket with no limitations, the price goes to $100 a day. These are 1 park per day tickets with no park hopping. The tickets are good from June 12th through September 28th of 2023.
I think this is such a fun, awesome thing that the parks do for California residents, giving these discounted ticket deals. And they're good during the summer, which is typically, a busier time of year to visit the parks. So I think that's I don't know, I like it. The other thing that's really nice about these two is instead of it being like a regular 3-day ticket, you don't have to visit within a certain time. Like, you don't have to visit within like 10 days of the first day you visit or something. You have the full summer to kind of use this ticket. So I think this is so cool. If I lived in California, I would definitely be taking advantage of this deal for sure.
Yeah, for anybody who lives in California, I think it's a great deal. When I lived in California, I don't remember there being a lot of these ticket deals, but I tell you, I wish there were because, you can save a little bit of money this way because the normal ticket price per day is like, $109? So you're saving like $10 a day, which is pretty good. And actually for a park hopper, it's probably even better than that. So,
well, and the lowest price days are what, 104, 109. So
yeah, something like that.
This would even go towards those higher price days too. So it's a great deal. Guests watching World of Color 1 have an added bonus for a limited time. Elemental Connection, a new pre-show showcasing the story of the upcoming movie Elemental, plays just before the main World of Color show. No end date has been announced, but with the movie premiering on June 16th, it probably won't be sticking around for too long.
This little pre-show, looks really cool because one of the things that I like about World of Color 1 is they've done so much work with the lights that are on the Incredicoaster, and they do that in this. So they have a section that says like fire and water and air.
Yeah, it's not just like the cool decorations. Oh no, they've written words out in the lights. I think that is so cool. Yeah. I need to watch a video. I've only seen stills of this so far. And a lot of the reports we've seen, they're like, yeah, it's there, but it's not very exciting. I don't know. I'm very excited about the photographs that I've seen. Maybe it's just very brief and it's not like a very long thing, and so it's just kind of this little like extra pixie dust. But like you, I was so excited that they had fire, water, air written out in the lights on the Incredicoaster. Yeah,
I think it'll be really great to see. I don't know how long it's going to stay around. I wish these things stayed around for a while. I do like that they're doing more of the synergy kind of things. So yeah, so I think it's good.
Side note, since we just finished recording our bonus episode for our AP and above listeners for the month of June, we did a little preview. We did talk about our thoughts on the most recent releases from Disney. What are your thoughts? Are you excited about Elemental?
Me?
Yes.
I am excited about Elemental. I do feel like it gives me the same vibes as Inside Out because it's like, different things. I mean, it's a little different. Yeah, and Zootopia. So I don't know. But it looks really good, like visually. And so I'm really excited. I think they have a lot of really cute plays on things. Like one of the things, if anybody's seen the trailer, this isn't going to be a spoiler for anything, but like the water guy like walks through the fence and then fire guy.
He takes his shirt off, walks through the fence.
And the fire chick just like walks through it. And they go, why do they even have these? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's a great question.
No, I know. I think it looks really fun too.
But I love all those things. I like the dad gives the guy like the hot food, but it's like coals. And then he belches up like a scream. I don't know. I think it looks great.
And then did you notice he also then like is coughing like like it's too hot, but it's mist. He's like misting instead of coughing.
It's so clever, it's right? So fun.
I'm really, really excited if you haven't been able to talk.
I'm excited just for the cleverness. I feel like there's a lot of clever little things.
Yep.
Well, we're a few months into the Disney 100, and more things keep coming. Last week, we talked about the fact that the Finials were finally replaced. Well, some new items have been added to the foodie guide for the celebration. The Disney 100 chocolate tart is now available at the Blue Bayou, and a spiced ham and eggs with biscuits and gravy is at the Carnation Cafe. Over at Gibson Girl Ice Cream, the Berry Violet Sundae is also new. Over at the Tropical Hideaway, the popular Jungle Cruise Dessert Bowl has had a Disney 100 makeover. I want one of these, actually.
I missed this, and I haven't even seen a photo of this yet, but in the Disney Parks blog updated foodie guide, they have a Disney 100 Mr. Toad premium bucket that's coming.
Oh.
Doesn't that sound so fun?
It does sound fun.
There's also some new drinks that have come to DC that sound very fun and fancy. There's a Sparkling Night, which is a champagne and blue curacao served in a Disney 100 fluted glass, available at, the Hollywood Lounge, Lamplight Lounge, and Lamplight, of course. But yeah, super fun. Strawberry cheesecake bread pudding over at Pacific Wharf Cafe.
Ooh. Ooh, these Lamplight Lounge things look pretty good. What is this? A meat bread meat sandwich? Ooh.
I think it's really fun that they've expanded upon the foodie guide when we're just about halfway through the celebration. I think that's fun that they're kind of doing like a refresh almost. So there's still new things to go try. A lot of the original things are still there. So like the sparkling grape soda that we tried when we were
with
there.
A hint of grape.
Yeah, with a hint of grape that had that candy strip on top. The lemon chiffon pie is still there. So a lot of those things are still there.
Crumble ice cream parfait, which is a cinnamon shake layered with apple pie filling, granola crumble, and caramel topped with whipped cream at Smoke Jumpers. That sounds really good. Oh my goodness. Why do they keep adding all this good stuff? I was also happy to see that they had some more savory items.
Yes. And, they say that this is new at Carnation, but I think James and I had this spiced ham and eggs with biscuits and gravy.
Did you?
We had some sort of biscuits and gravy special. And this description sounds awfully familiar to what it was that we enjoyed.
Well, how many different ways can you do biscuits and gravy, I guess?
Oh, the possibilities are endless, Tag. Let me see if I can find for sure there's a photo of the thing. This.
I think that's just biscuits and gravy, though.
No, there's potatoes on mine.
Yeah.
No, that one has breakfast potatoes and eggs. I don't know if that's ham. Anyways, we had something similar, and it was delicious.
If you would have taken a picture of the menu.
If only I would have taken a picture of the menu. You're right. Well, June 6th, as in the day we're recording today, is National Churro Day. 9 new churros are available now until August 31st, along with 2 others that are available later this summer. Some of the options are the fruity cereal churro, a chai spice churro, a pineapple churro, and so many more. There are also an array of new churro dipping sauces.
Oh, churro dipping sauces. That I'm all about that.
It's amazing to me. Just as you think. So I was making a graphic today to share on social media to celebrate National Churro Day, and I was taking all sorts of different pictures of all the different churros that we've tried, and it's crazy to think how many different churro combinations Disney parks have put out there.
Sure.
Wild.
A lot.
Wild to think. I can't even think what my favorite churro of all time is because there's just so many different ones to choose from.
You know what's funny? These fruity cereal, there's a fruity cereal churro, and later when we start talking about the Jazz Cafe, they have a same thing that has the
beignet.
Yeah, the beignet with it, and it makes me want fruity
Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
If I could, I will not be in Disneyland before these go away. I was going to try and think of something clever like glow away, but for churros, so I'd crunch away. I don't know. But
nice try.
I would definitely, the fruity cereal churro, I don't know what it is about this, sounds really interesting to me.
So I saw online that the guava cream cheese dipping sauce that's at the It's a Small World churro cart, they said the powdered sugar churro was fine, whatever. Don't spend the extra money on it. They said get the guava cream cheese dipping sauce, though, because you can use it with a regular churro, and it's really good. So I feel like got to try that. Look, a coffee cream dipping sauce.
Oh, I'm all about that.
The chai spice churro sounds good, too,
That would
because
be
I like
yummy.
chai.
That would be yummy. Over at Willie's
And
Churros,
pineapple.
not only can you find the infamous spicy chili cheese churro, but they also now have a strawberry lemonade churro.
Ooh.
A churro dusted with strawberry sugar and dressed with a lemon sauce and topped with freeze-dried strawberries.
Just so everybody knows, the spicy chili cheese churro is available through June 28th, so act fast. You only got to the end of the month.
If you want to try that unique creation, act fast.
Yeah, so
Goofy Sky
Oh
School
my
has
goodness.
a s'more churro. The Cozy Cone has a chocolate hazelnut strawberry churro. Bacon, peanut butter, and jelly churro over the Hollywoodland churro cart.
If you're in downtown Disney, try the French toast churro at the California churro. That sounds like it'd be good.
Yum. They need to start doing, you know how they used to have foodie, printed foodie guides that the parks had? They need to do that with churros so people can have churro tasting cards or something. Because there's just so many different
here's the next
options.
question. They've done all these different things. They had the hand pies, and now they're doing the churro stuff.
They
and
still
all
have
this.
the hand pies.
What do you think is going to be the next Disney snack that they're going to go crazy about?
I feel like we're getting the next things cream cheese pretzel. We've kind
Ooh,
of.
I hope so.
We've seen some ramp up with uniqueness with the cream cheese pretzel, not to the level of like the churros.
I'm about that though. I love cream cheese pretzels.
I would also like to see more cold brews. I would love more cold brews.
They've done a lot of cold brews.
They've done a lot of cold brews, but I would like to see more. I would like to see more because some of them, I feel like, and I mean this is anything, but with cold brews, sorry, I'm getting a little off topic. Cold brews, it's a little hit and miss on if I would get them again or not. But I don't feel like there's too many churros that I was just like, ooh, no. So we're looking. So this episode, if you're a supporter, we do a monthly live stream for listeners or for supporters. So we have a live stream going on, and Olivia S suggested popcorn, and yes, popcorn would be fun.
Well,
I'm thinking about
Tokyo. They have tons of popcorn,
and they're like tons of different flavors, tons of different sweet options, savory options. Really, we just have butter. And I still haven't tried it, but there is caramel popcorn.
I do want to say that everybody's
DCA.
Jumping on the cold brew bandwagon with you.
Yes, all about yes to cold brews. Yes.
Well, out in downtown Disney, Beignets Expressed has opened at Jazz Kitchen Coastal Grill and Patio. Guests can watch beignets being made through a window, much like candy on Main Street. The inside of the location is pretty open and spacious. Guests can also purchase beignet mix to try making them at home. There's also some merchandise available with the Beignets Expressed logo on them. T-shirt, hat. So if you're interested in doing that, there you go. So this has the cereal one that I was talking about. The Glazed of the Month, which is the Rainbow Crunch, is what it is.
So mixed feelings from me about the newly renovated space.
Well, that's a whole nother.
So the newly renovated, we're just talking about Beignet Expressed, as in like past tense expressed. I miss it. It's going to take some time for me to get used to this new look.
It's very vibrant.
It's very different. It's very different. I think it's fun that they've got merchandise. I do wish the old versions of the Jazz Kitchen and the beignet counter had that style of like their old version style merchandise, but I don't remember them having like t-shirts and stuff before. Maybe they did and I just missed it. But I do think it's really fun. My one thing that I am happy about is they now have under the glaze, so you can get classic beignets or you can get glazed beignets.
Oh.
And the thing that is really exciting for me, who is very bad at making decisions, is they have the dip, drizzle, and sprinkle, which is 4-piece of the glazed beignets, and you get one of each. You get a banana Foster, a snickerdoodle, a simply glazed, and whatever the glazed of the month is. So the banana Foster,
which is the Rainbow Crunch this time.
Yep. So the banana Fosters and snickerdoodle on the menu all the time. Those were like specialty churros previously. They must have been popular enough that they decided to keep them on the menu permanently. So I think that's really cool that you can get a sample pack.
Weren't we talking about that when we were there before? That we were trying to pick between a couple different ones, and this would have been great for that.
That would have been perfect.
We could have. And these are big beignets.
They are, yes.
So you could definitely share one beignet with another person because they're also very sweet.
Oh my goodness! I don't think I saw this before. So in your classic beignets, you have a 4-pack, you have a 6-pack. However, they have also included a 10-pack. So if you and all of your friends wanted to share some beignets, there's now a 10-pack option.
Oh my goodness.
Wild.
Yeah, these look really good. It makes me want some beignets, but I'm still full from the churros we had for National Churro Day.
Yes.
If you live in an area, I think Teresa said this earlier, but just to reiterate, if you do live in an area that doesn't, you're not sure where to get churros, but you have a Sam's Club, Sam's Club has churros. So
they
you
were
can
only
go in,
$1.
and they're $1 a piece. They cook it.
Not bad. Well, with the closure of Splash Mountain last week, the narration on the Disneyland Railroad and the Mark Twain Riverboat has been updated to talk about Tiana's Bayou Adventure coming to Critter Country in 2024. You heard that right. It's still going to be Critter Country.
Critter Country. I thought for some reason that Critter Country was going to get absorbed into New Orleans Square.
It could go either way, right?
It could. Now, the other thing I want to mention is, of course, legendary Imagineer Tony Baxter, who worked on this attraction, was there to ride one final time on the last day as well. I know that's not exactly what our story is about here, but they did catch him there riding it the last time, and everybody was cheering him and everything.
Did you see photos? I just had to giggle because Tony grabbed some Splash Mountain water as a keepsake for himself. I saw photos posted somewhere online, and I just thought that was so cool.
Not great, because apparently cast members had been telling guests to not try to take splash water.
That's true. Yep, that's
true. Tony, you're not helping the cast members.
Tony was breaking the rules, but I feel maybe there was some leeway since he was one of the Imagineers that brought Splash Mountain to life.
Now, what do you think of this? So, my chat mentioned this, and I was curious to get your thoughts. So, on the fencing around it, it just has Tiana's food signs. They don't have a lot of concept art or anything. What do you think about that? It's
generic. So, my chat pointed this out, and I get it. We have to remember, not everybody that visits Disney parks are crazy Disney parks nuts like we are. And so there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people think that an attraction is being taken out so that Tiana's Foods is coming in, because the signage just says Tiana's Foods, employee owned, coming soon. So there's a lot of confusion with guests thinking that a restaurant is going to be going in the space that was Splash Mountain. And a lot of people don't realize that it's a new attraction that's coming in. So Mice Chat, which I agree with, said, how about we put up some of the beautiful concept art for this new attraction to help with the confusion and to get people excited about what's to come next. And I thought that was a great idea.
The one thing they did do that was kind of fun, because they had some, on Instagram, they had some Imagineers do this, is they do have this Louis is on his way to the party mural that you can stand, and it looks like you're holding an umbrella or playing a saxophone or beating a drum with Louis, and they posted this with Imagineers doing it, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
So there's that.
This reminded me of the fun construction walls that they had in front of Pirates. When we were there for the wedding trip. They had some of these, like, I don't know, you posed with the photo of, like, it was different iconic scenes in Pirates. I think one of them was, like, you were, like, the guy that's on the one foot in the boat and one foot on the shore, and you're trying to hold all that stuff. And then another one was you were, like, the dog, and you had the keys in front of the people at the jail. I think they're so fun. This is a ridiculous update, but I needed to point this out because I thought this was such a interesting detail that they've already swapped. So not only is Tiana's Bayou Adventure already on the map, the digital Disneyland map, but other parts of it are kind of creeping into Critter Country. They've swapped out the garbage cans.
Yes.
The garbage cans in Critter Country are now themed to the Bayou Adventure theming. I thought that was really fun. So
they did not waste time, that's for sure.
They did not waste any time with that. Another way that you can celebrate Tiana's Bayou Adventure coming with end of 2024 is the date, is there's a special magic shot over in the French Quarter area with Tiana that you can do as well.
Well, Disneyland is now back to 3 of the 4 mountains being operational. The Matterhorn has reopened after a refurbishment over the last couple months. During the downtime, the attraction didn't get any less wild and bumpy, so if you think that they fixed the track, they didn't. I don't think it'll ever be fixed.
No.
Which is fine.
That's part of the charm of the Matterhorn, is the ride.
I will say I missed it when we were there last, because it was down, because I don't ride it more than like once per trip. But I do enjoy the Matterhorn. And actually, I watched a ride through, and they did both sides, and I realized that the side I thought I liked, it was actually the other side I liked.
So what side do you like? I like the Fantasyland side.
Tomorrowland side.
So when you get on it,
when you're looking at the mountain, boarding on the left.
Oh, see, I like to go on the right.
Yeah. Because I think the one on the left is like more crazy. Because it has that one section where the track is there and you dip. Yep. I like that.
It's a little wilder of a ride.
Maybe the next time we go, maybe I'll have to be crazy and do one on each side.
Sometimes it's difficult because they just kind of zip you over to where you need to be.
Well, not only that, but
sometimes just one side's working.
It's not like a super high capacity attraction, so there's always a wait.
Yep.
So unless you get it like right in the morning, I guess, which I mean is possible.
Since the incident with Fantasmic, Wondrous Journeys has not been showing on the Rivers of America. Well, this past week, it returned. This is a great location to see the projection part of the show and have minimal crowd experience. The show should be playing at this location throughout the summer.
I watched a video that before this got reported, I saw a video online that somebody took. And honestly, because one of the things that is hard with this show is there's so many projections. Mm-hmm. For me, I think you disagree with me on this, but for me, the castle is not the best place to watch the thing because there's too many layers, so it's hard to see the full thing. So I think Main Street's a little better, but this, they do it on the mist screen, so it's like there's no change, there's nothing in the way of the projection. Even on Small World, you've got all the different things it's projecting onto. So if you want to see the purest projection, if you will, I think the Rivers of America is the place to go see it. And if you've never seen the fireworks from that vantage point, it's actually not bad. If you're there on a fireworks night, the fireworks are kind of off to the right and the projection's right in front of you. It's actually a really nice place to watch fireworks. You don't get a lot of the castle stuff. You can kind of see it off to the side. Yeah. But there's hardly anybody, especially with Fantasmic not running, there's hardly anybody there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great spot.
I have mixed feelings because we watched, I don't remember what it was, but there was one show that we watched from there, and it's the same projections as what's on the castle and what's on Main Street. It's the exact same show. I have a tough time with mist screens just in general. I think it bothers me that they're not as clear. So sometimes it's more difficult for me to enjoy the projections because they're not as easy. Like, I don't know, they're not as crisp as like if you're watching it on Main Street or on a hard surface.
Oh, totally.
Versus my personal favorite spot is watching it from. I think it's because I get distracted easily, so I'm more like tunnel visioned if I'm watching it from the castle, because I've got all I have to look is the castle, and like off to the side is the fireworks. Because when I'm on Main Street, I tend to look like
everywhere.
I'm looking behind me at some point. So I feel like I'm missing stuff because I'm trying to take all of it in on Main Street, and you're surrounded. So yeah, but it is, like you said, it is a nice place to watch. We really enjoy watching from Small World. Also a different experience, but it's just more chill.
I still have yet, and I think it's just going to be something I have to do, I still have yet to watch it from Galaxy's Edge. I hear it's really special to watch the fireworks from Galaxy's Edge. It's a different experience.
It's different, yep.
But I think the thing is, it's like right now, like Wondrous Journeys, I love Wondrous Journeys. And so when there's fireworks, I want to see it like on Main Street.
See it as as it was designed to see.
Yeah, in the best possible way. So it's really tough. By the way, I'm obsessed with this and with Magic Happens. I have been listening to those two soundtracks.
They're good.
Over and over. When I have like a task to do, like James and I have been cleaning our basement, those two shows just
those are the ones.
On repeats. It's I did not expect to enjoy those shows as much as I did, but they are great.
Good.
Well, a burst water pipe in Adventureland caused some dampening of spirits last week. The plumbing issue closed down a large part of Adventureland and caused some other attractions to temporarily close. The next day, there was a construction wall blocking off the Adventureland men's restroom and the water feature that's nearby.
Well, and so not only did this, mess up things in Adventureland, but like Tag said, it kind of hindered things outside of Adventureland too. So there were attractions that were down. There was something. It had something to do with air conditioning. Air conditioners were down in some of the attractions, which then also was causing issues with food service places and like their cooling. So there was mobile order was also down. So it's just kind of, unfortunately, this really terrible ripple effect. Of course, crews worked quickly. So by the time people were at the parks the next day, it was pretty well contained. The attractions were reopened, but it was right in front of the restrooms there in Adventureland. So not sure exactly how or why the pipe burst, but yes, it happened and it caused all sorts of chaos.
Poor Adventureland. Yeah. I saw...
Poor park.
Yeah, I saw some of this on Instagram from some people, and exactly that I was I was feeling bad, and people were saying, for some reason, you know how things get spread on the internet. People were like, "Oh, Disneyland's been hacked," but no.
There was all sorts of weird rumors, but yeah. So they basically were trying to troubleshoot as best they could, and so because mobile order is something they can control, they can just turn, like, if they know that something's goofy and think they're not going to be able to keep up with the demand of orders, they can just turn mobile ordering off. So
that's smart.
They were trying to be as proactive as they could, knowing that they had this situation that was causing all sorts of issues through different different functions of the park. So glad though that they got it all taken care of and that everything's back up and running. Well, Mice Chat reported this week that some guests over at Avengers Campus have been invited to see a new young Groot animatronic that may be coming to the Awesome Dance-Off in the future. As part of the dance-off, Star-Lord and Groot interact with each other, with young Groot talking and reacting to Star-Lord. No word on when this will show up for all guests, but it could be as soon as sometime this summer.
So we saw a video of this a while ago when it was tethered. And looked amazing.
It's very cool.
And
it is so cool.
So it'll be really cool to see this. The fact that they had people come in and like look at it, I think that's cool that they're doing like smaller tests of things.
A preview? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the question is this going to replace your Mantis?
It will replace Mantis, which makes me very sad.
You're so sad about this.
I am very sad. Mantis is she's such a great addition. If they could, and maybe they do. Maybe, we don't know. Maybe Mantis will still be there.
Sure.
And Groot will just be an addition. Because, I mean, we watched the Awesome Dance-Off probably more times than we should probably report on this last trip. But we did see a version where it was only Star-Lord. And honestly, that was still an enjoyable show, even though Star-Lord didn't have
anybody to play
off. Gamora, I hate to say it, I enjoyed Star-Lord on his own more than I enjoyed Gamora being there. I don't think she adds much, but man, Star-Lord and Mantis, they were fun. They were a ton of fun. And I could see, and like I said, Star-Lord did a really great job on his own.
Yeah.
And with an animatronic, there's probably only so much back and forth that they can do. So I think it'd be cool if you still had 2 live actors in addition to the animatronic for the dance-off.
Yeah.
But how stinking cool would that be?
I mean, it says he could talk.
This.
Is he just going to be like, I am Groot?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
Adorably.
Pilots, we've detected some producer questions near Jakku. Report to your DLWeekly vessels and make the jump to hyperspace. The 7-7 Squadron will provide support during your trivia mission. Good luck, and may the Force be with you.
Welcome to Trivia Land. How we feeling tonight? Do we have some great information stored up in your brains? You excited? You ready to spew forth with your knowledge?
You know what? Why the heck not? Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Depends on the topic.
Okay. Well, this is not the deep dive that you saw me doing earlier. I'm saving that for a future episode. So tonight we are going entirely listener-submitted questions. So let's go right to it. We are starting with a listener, Tara F., asks, much of the front seating section of Flo's V8 Cafe in Carsland is decorated with touches that are a throwback to the 1950s, and most of the memorabilia centers around Flo herself. What was Flo's biggest claim to fame before coming to Radiator Springs?
She was part of a girl group. I can't remember what they're called, though. She was a singer in this, group. Dang it. We were even talking about this you weren't, I don't know, where were you? Oh, you were back at the hotel. We went and got Flo's chicken for breakfast one morning. You stayed back at the hotel because
best chicken in
was
the
that
parks.
the day I wasn't feeling well?
Yeah. And it was she was in a group. I'm going to call it a girl group. It was like a trio maybe. And I don't remember what the...
That's better than me. I don't know anything about it.
I don't remember what it is, though.
Not the Corvettes?
No, they weren't the Corvettes.
Come on, that was a good one.
Yeah. Oh.
Vern, just so you know, I have no answer, so that's a 0 for me.
I don't remember what the name of the group is, but I'm just going to say she was a singer in a girl group.
Okay, so we have no answer and a singer in a girl group. Is that your final answers?
Yep. We're really starting off well. I'm really starting off well this week.
This is terrible. As soon as he says it, it's one of those, like... There's even, like...
I had nothing. You at least had a glimmer.
Like pictures, like, there's a huge picture on the wall. They have, like, these little, like, what looks like you can play music, like, little jukeboxy kind of things. This is going to drive me... Don't Google it. You're cheating.
We've already answered.
I don't remember what it's called. I have photos. I took photos of it.
Of course you did.
That's the even worse part about this. Is I even took photos of it.
Your second listener-submitted question tonight from listener Donna S. What year did Disneyland start allowing cast members to have mustaches?
Oh, that was recent.
That was just, I'm going to say 21 or 2.
I'm going to say 2019. Because every time I think something just happened, it's like, this happened in 2015. And I'm like, oh, that's...
I'm thinking it was 2021.
Well, I'm saying 2019.
You're saying 2019?
Yep. Because I think it was before the pandemic.
See, I'm thinking...
It was during the pandemic?
Post-pandemic, because remember, the caretaker... This is such a weird thing to remember this by. The caretaker for the Haunted Mansion...
Well, that was after the
suddenly
renovation.
got facial hair.
Right, but they were redoing stuff in the Haunted Mansion before the park closed, wasn't they?
You're right. But it was also... Yeah, okay. That's my thought process, was the Haunted Mansion caretaker having...
Sounds good to me. But I'm going with 2019.
Okay, so that was 2019 and 2021?
Yep.
Final answers?
Yep.
All right. And your third regular round question submitted by producer James.
Oh.
Speaking of facial hair, when would Merlin, Genie, and most of the dwarves be allowed to work at the parks because they have beards?
What?
What year did they start allowing beards?
Oh,
is that different than mustaches?
that must be different.
Yes.
Yeah, mustaches must have been... I'm going to stick with 2021.
I'm going to stick with 2019. I know it's stupid, but...
I thought it was all facial hair. I
thought so, too.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they separated out mustache to...
You know what? I think the mustache was like the 70s, and then I think the
70s
beard
or
was later.
80s.
But I'm going to leave my answer because that's what we did. So 2019 and 2020, same as the last question, Vern.
All right, final answers.
Yeah.
Okay. And your fourth and final regular round question from listener Cooper C. You remember Bugs Land? There were 4 attractions there.
Yeah.
What were the names of those
It's
attractions?
tough to be a bug.
Yep.
Hang on. Tough to...
There's ladies,
Tuck and rolls something.
Tuck and Rolls, the bumper. It was the bumper cars, wasn't it? Tuck and Rolls.
It was Tuck and Rolls something.
There was Flix Flyers
Flix Flyers.
and Heimlich's Choo Choo Train.
Hang on. Flix Flyers.
Heimlich's
The
Choo Choo
Choo-Choo
Train.
Train.
Heimlich's Choo Choo Train specifically.
Yep. And
Tuck and Roll, you've got
was
part of it, but I
Tuck-
don't know what the whole thing is.
Tuck and Roll something.
I mean, that's going to give us at least a half a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good that you said it's a tough to be a bug
wait.
because I would have forgotten that one.
But the ladybug.
Oh, so maybe
There was
it's tough to be a bug wasn't in Bugs
It wasn't
Land?
counting. It was, but maybe they're not counting that as an attraction, and they're counting it as a
Flix
show.
Flyers,
There's something
Heimlich's
with
Choo Choo Train.
Francis's- it's
Ladybug.
Francis.
It's Francis Ladybug. It was like a teacup thing, wasn't it?
Francis.
Ladybug Boogie.
Ladybug Boogie.
Francis's Ladybug Boogie, and Tuck and Roll something or other with it was bumper cars, but I don't remember what it was called.
I don't remember what they were called either.
I think that's it. So we've given you 5, even though you asked for 4.
We've given you 5. Yes.
And real quick, what did you call Tuck and Rolls?
Wait, that was it. Tuck and Roll's blank.
Tuck and Rolls blank, okay.
It was a bumper car attraction. That's
Yeah,
all
we don't remember what the full name was.
correct.
All right, and Francis Ladybug Boogie?
Yes.
The Ladybug Boogie.
All right, final answer?
Yes.
I feel pretty good about that one. Except for the Francis or the tuck and roll.
All I can think is like Roadsters, but that's Luigi's Rollicking Roadsters.
Okay. And your bonus question, also from listener Cooper C. I'm going to give you a grace period of up to 20 seconds.
Oh, boy.
How long was each attraction?
Oh, my land.
Like of those four?
Of those four, how long did it take to enjoy
Flyers
each attraction?
is the same length
it's
as
like
the...
a minute and a half.
Yep, minute and a half for Flix Flyers.
I feel like they're all about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there is. Do you need each one's time, or can we say one time that covers all of them?
I will accept one time that covers all of them.
Yeah, minute and a half.
Do you think a minute and a half or 2 minutes? Go with 2 minutes.
I'll go with a minute and a half.
Because he's giving us a 20-second leeway.
Yeah, a minute and a half.
You're going with a minute and a half?
Yep.
I'm going 2 minutes.
Okay.
So that was a minute and a half or 90 seconds from Tag, and 2 minutes or 120 seconds from Teresa.
Yep.
And I gave you a grace period of 20 seconds.
Yep.
Okay. Final answers.
Final.
Yep.
All right. Well, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home? Stick around until after the discussion topic, and we will all find out together.
Let's talk about your first role. I forget what you said it was called already. Sounded really interesting because you got to kind of help. What was it? You said you were repackaging movies, so then they would then go to the international market.
Oh, so how I started the company. So I was working in the shipping room.
That's right, shipping room.
That's called the shipping room.
Got it.
Mail room, the shipping room. Yeah, it's a shipping clerk. It's not a very exciting job.
But you moved into doing the cover stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
what we want to talk about.
That was when you drew Mickey and then shifted over into designing stuff. Okay, got it. So let's talk about some of your cover art, because that's what kind of, when we first met you last year at Disneyana, you had a booth or a table, and that's what drew me into you. Had all of these different movie posters, and they were all films that I recognized and that I watched growing up. And so I had to stop and talk to you about them, because I was like, what? Like things like The Black Cauldron. That's, I feel like, one of the movies, I'm sure Tag's not seen it, one of the movies that even a lot of like big Disney fans haven't even seen.
Well,
I watched it all the time when I was growing up, though.
It's interesting that you say Black Cauldron, because it's only been recently that Black Cauldron, some of the other animators and stuff that I've talked to, we were discussing this, and at shows, everybody talks about Black Cauldron now.
Yeah, and they didn't used to.
Very recently, because that movie was not considered very good, and it's kind of become this cult classic. And so now, all of a sudden, I went to one show, and every second person was coming up to me saying, Black Cauldron, Black Cauldron. I was like going, what is going on? I was talking to another animator with me, and he's like, he also worked on Black Cauldron, and he was like, what is happening? And so,
nobody liked this movie. Why do they like it now? I was I was probably one of the few kids that grew up with it and really enjoyed it. I loved it until you got to like where the Horned King kind of brought his like army of the dead to life. Then I got terrified, but then I was okay again because Gurgi was adorable. So I grew up with it. And so I think because it's kind of popping back up, the few of us that really did enjoy it as children are like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, well, I kept asking people, and finally there were some millennial girls that came up to my table, and I said to them once again, because I thought it was just Sacramento maybe that we were in, that there's a secret fight club of Black no one talks about Black Cauldron except there.
Right.
But they told me, they said, oh no, there's a lot of videos on YouTube now that talk about it as Disney's like secret darkest movie ever that no one knows about. And it had kind of gone viral, they said. And so I said, oh, then that makes a little more sense to me now. I can understand the how that's the interest has popped back up.
Yes.
Still haven't seen those videos, but God bless them. Black Cauldron, cool. So Black Cauldron is one that we hear a lot about nowadays, and that was one of the, if not the first one, it may have been the second one that I actually ended up working on. So, because when I got there, it was right away, they just started putting me on projects once that lead art director said, you're working for me. So they kind of all blend together in my head. But Black Cauldron was one. And that was the first film, home entertainment ever actually, or first cover we ever actually printed on foil. So yeah, we were trying new effects and things. And so they printed on foil, and it's so cool. And I have people come up all the time and they want me to sign their covers or do things for them. But
So the covers that you worked on, were is it like blank sheet of paper and they're like, you need to make a cover for Black Cauldron? Or was there already kind of a sketch or an idea? Or I guess, what is the process when you needed to work on one of these?
It's a great question, and it varies for every cover. So where a lot of people point to me and say, oh, you did this cover, or you did that cover, or whatever. I always tell people it's a team of people. It's never just me. There are art directors involved. There are legal team. There's marketing team. And sometimes I agree with those people and sometimes I don't. But it is a team of people that are involved. And so for every single one, it can range the amount of my involvement on those covers or not, because these were going through different teams and different things. So for like Black Cauldron, I did a lot of color exploration on that and lighting exploration to figure it out. But it always starts out with the storytelling, of course. What is the story that we're trying to convey there? A lot of people think that we just pick up the movie poster and put it on the cover of a VHS or a DVD. And that would be wonderful. That would work. But when you have to put it on a store shelf and be able to see that thing from 6 to 10 feet away, that has to really pop in a way and speak, has to, pop off the shelf basically at you so you can see it, where a lot of these movie posters are just so crammed full of stuff that it doesn't speak in the same way. And so early on, Disney figured out like, oh no, we got to redesign these, and they would spend all the time to do it. But they came with varying and different amounts of visibility to the underlying stories and the characters, dependent on a lot of things. So like when I first started without the internet, sometimes I wouldn't even get a chance to screen the film beforehand. Sometimes I wouldn't even have screenshots. Because when I started out, I was a contractor as opposed to actual employee. That would also restrict the access I had to certain materials. So like I always give the example for Lion King 2, they put me into a conference room and they said, draw. And I was like, draw what? And then they said, okay, it's Lion King. They said, just draw Lion King. And I was like, okay, what do I remember of the Lion King? So I started drawing the two big heads in the sky is what I kind of remembered. And I started drawing those. So when you see the Lion King 2 cover, literally I was drawing Mufasa and baby Simba. So then they came back in a little while later and they said, okay, it's Lion King 2. And I go, okay, well, what's the story? And then they left the room again. And
we can't tell you. No.
They went to find out. And then they came back in again a little bit later and they said, okay, Simba has a daughter. So I was like, okay, so I started modifying Mufasa and baby Simba I had drawn to what I looked as an adult Simba now, and maybe kind of my idea of what a daughter would look like, because I didn't have any reference. So then they came back a little while later. They finally found me towards the end of the day, a licensing guide from Lion King, which had pieces that we would send out to, to do T-shirts and stuff. It was pieces of Lion King artwork. And they said, okay, here's a Lion King licensing guide. And so I started flipping through there and I found the silhouette of all the characters walking down below. And I was like, oh, well, if I do this, because I just had the two big heads, if we put this down below, it'll at least ground it and stuff. And then I gave that back to the art directors and they go, okay, great, thanks. And that became the cover. Yeah. And so if you look at that silhouette down below, there are no Lion King 2. That's not Kiara and Kovu that you see there. It is the Lion King characters at the bottom of that cover. And that is why Kiara isn't, it looks okay. It's passable. But if you look at her like in the film, it's not exactly like on model. It's because it was baby Simba it started as. So when they just took it and ran with it, and that became the thing. And so I never saw the film. I didn't know. That's all I knew of it. And so that shows you kind of the least that I can have. Then at one point I moved over to do like the 50th anniversary for Ichabod and Toad. They were bringing them back together again. They'd split them up in the feature films initially as shorts when they were releasing them. But for the video and DVD, they were bringing them back together for the 50th anniversary the way they originally were released in the theaters. So I got the task of doing that, and I really wanted to do a good job because it was one of the first gigs that I had. So I did a lot of cover designs for that. Probably over 25 or 30 different
wow. Yeah.
I went to town. And at one point I even made the joke with my the art director, Lisa George, and I had said to her, I said, well, because it was before the internet and I didn't have any reference for the car, Mr. Toad's car. And I said, well, you know, I could go to Disneyland and ride the car and just charge you guys for it. And, you know, I'll expense it to you guys as my research. Joking and stuff. And then she looked at me, she said, okay. And I was like, what? I get to go to Disneyland and charge you guys and to ride the ride? Like, this is amazing to me. So that's what I did. And so got approval for that. And I went down and rode that ride like 30 times that day and, you know, took sketches and stuff. And that was the first time, too, as I went to the Imagineering Research Library on the lot. Well, actually, it was at Imagineering to go and get pictures and reference for the cars. But we did all of this research to do about 30 different designs. And they ended up using the one that they did of Ichabod and Toad walking down kind of a film strip kind of path. But even then, it changed. So when I first designed that cover, they were walking down kind of like a sidewalk, like a path of this film strip. And for whatever reason, marketing came and maybe it was legal even, but they made the decision to flip that film strip. They wanted it going the different way. So now if you look at that cover, it looks like they're actually walking off of a cliff, the side of the film strip, and they're going to fall into the, you know, empty space there instead of walking down a path. Why? I don't know. Once you see it, you'll never not see it. But for whatever reason, that's what they liked and they wanted, and they did it. So again, all of these things have different things to them. You know, with the Ichabod and Toad, because I did so many of them, that they went and for the last now 20, 30 years that they've been putting that out, every time they re-release it, it's just been another piece of my artwork they pull out of the file cabinet and they put on there. So the last 3 releases have all been my artwork. And it's artwork I did 20, 25 years ago now. And even with that, there was one that I did that I had just done, just focused on the Headless Horseman because I love the Headless Horseman. He's so cool and, you know, such an iconic character. And so I just done that as an exploration. And the marketing and legal at the time, they said, oh, this is too scary. We can't do this. And I go, too scary? It's in the film. Like, why is that too scary? Like, why is that? You know, I just didn't understand. But, you know, really they wanted to focus on Ichabod and Toad. And I got it. I said, okay. But then 20 years later, Walmart used that as a Walmart exclusive slipcase for Halloween. And so I was in there one day in Walmart and I see that and I go, hey, that's my artwork. And now 20 years later, it's not scary anymore, too scary. They can use it and figure out a way to monetize it. So again, they do that. No good idea ever goes unused there at the company. But every single one, like I say, it just has a different story to it or different secrets, as I tell people at the show, depending on which one they pick out and they like and want to know about. So
I have a question.
Very
Something
cool.
I've noticed between all of the covers. So there's a, you know, you're very well known. There's a page for you on the Disney Wiki.
Yeah.
And somebody has put all covers that they know you've worked on, and so we were just looking as you were talking about that.
Find out about new ones all the time, so it's just it's just that over time these are popped out, and these are the ones that people have clung to and have put up or talked about. So
one of the things I've noticed in each of the different ones, you probably have a technical term for it, being an illustrator, but there's kind of a lighting or a shading to try to make it kind of pop or be kind of more 3D looking. Is that kind of a style that you go for, or is that one of those things that like they kind of give it, like, can we talk about that a little bit? Because I've never noticed it, but now that I'm looking at them next to each other, I'm like, oh, they all kind of have this feel to them.
Yeah. So whether or not that's my style or not, I don't know. It is something that I kind of liked. So we would do, I think part of it was to try to make the for me, it was always about making these covers, these things that were familiar, make them not only new and reach a new audience. Because if you look at animation and you just take like a screenshot of these films, oftentimes they look very flat. Mm-hmm. And so it was finding ways in a single illustration, that's the difference too, is a lot of people mix me up with an animator. And I always say, an animator's job is to make images move. I make still images. So single images that are still, but it's finding ways to make those single images iconic and new and fresh in a way that people haven't seen or understood. Because again, these have to pop off a shelf from 10 feet away, and they ultimately are there to sell the product. It's to make people go, oh, I want that. I got to have that. That invokes something in them that they feel, some emotion, some memory, sense memory. And usually, hopefully, it's cooler than what the actual product is. So for me, it was always going back to trying to find what is it that is, to boil it down to the essence is, what is it that I find that is cool about this? That's the word. It's always, for me, it's cool. What is cool? What's cool about this that I like, that I found cool? So for a time, Disney, they distributed Power Rangers. Little known, people don't know. They also did Pokemon. And so I worked on both of those for a bit. And so I would always try to push on all of the things that I did, the things that I thought were cool. And marketing and legal would always push back on the reasons that they thought those things weren't cool or why we couldn't do it. So Power Rangers, I always tell the story is, the one thing that you always saw in all the Power Rangers shows is explosions. Yep. Explosions everywhere. And so I was always trying to put explosions onto the cover of the Power Rangers, and they never would let me because it's a kid's thing or whatever. And they were like, no, you can't do an explosion. And they're like, no fire, no explosions. They're like, it's too dangerous. So my workaround for that was we used a lot of lightning bolts and lighting effects to make it look kind of glowy and cool and still dangerous without seeming dangerous, I guess. For some reason, fire seemed more dangerous to them than lightning bolts. Well, again, it just kind of depended on what the project was. I always tell for like Mulan, that probably would have looked far more if you saw the poster, which actually the poster was supposed to be based on the video art that was done. But if they had let me do kind of what I originally had wanted to do with Mulan, the anime one, it would have looked closer to the live action poster because I had her stored kind of sitting straight up and she was far more serious and cool looking. And they were like, no, it's got to be kid friendly. So let's tilt her sword a little bit and let's make her smiling. And we'll put in some other characters with her and whatever. And so it becomes a more kid friendly,
I do think it's pretty cool, though, the reflection in the sword, that utilization. Because you got the main theme, the reflection song, but then you also see both sides of Mulan in the cover. I think it's a really cool representation of what the film is.
Thank you. Again, it's all trying to boil down the essence of these things into a singular image. Speaking of reflection, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was telling them the story. So when Mulan came out, we had a big sales meeting for home entertainment, and we had Christina Aguilera perform Reflection of the salespeople there, and I got to work with Christina Aguilera, and it was one of my most embarrassing moments because I was supposed to handle her microphone, and the microphone went out, and I didn't hear it on my headset, and so till half the song was over, so she was performing kind of with a dead mic, and so it was a very embarrassing moment, but these are other little Disney kind of things that happen when you're at the company.
You're like, I'm an illustrator, not a technical person.
Yes. Well, at that time, I was telling the person I was talking to the other day, it was actually a reporter, and I was saying, at that time, because he was talking about my history, I said it was kind of like a little bit of being jack of all trades. Yeah. Because, so besides doing illustrations for them on the covers, it came to be, and there was a lot of different teams there that would work on, there's the way Disney likes to work is by categories now. So you have like a classics team or like a princess team or direct-to-video team, or it's these categories that happen. So I was bouncing team to team. And so often being jack of all trades. So somebody would say, oh, we have a presentation we need to do for our marketing and art department. Oh, we'll just have Rick build these presentation boards. And so I would go in there and, set up all their boards and, create these presentation boards for them. And then somebody else would go out and say, oh, I have to go out for 2 weeks on maternity leave. So can you cover my shift? So I would fill in for a manager or even up to a director level. And so I'd be there for 2 weeks kind of routing material and, answering questions and stuff. And then I would be illustrating off to the side. And so it was jumping all around. And so for home entertainment for those 15 years that I was there, in part, it gave me a lot of visibility to different ways that the company works in different areas, because I was touching a lot of different things and getting to see and working with a lot of different levels of the company in different areas. And so it was an interesting experience to then, when I moved over to Disney English, to just being, even though that was focused more on illustration initially, it became a more managerial type position and overseeing licensing and overseeing other artists and all of those kind of things. So all of these things gave me an insight and education to different levels of the company, different positions.
How awesome that you got to work in so many different kind of things, though. I mean, my type of personality is I like to do a lot of different things, and I'm a very inquisitive person. And so that'd be amazing to just be able to touch so many different things that's not necessarily your job title. So,
yeah, it's, I always say everything for me is driven by curiosity, and still it kind of goes back to, I always make the joke, it's just trying to pay my bills. So for me, it was like, okay, you have an opportunity for me here, or a job and stuff. And for me, once I came to Disney, I had already worked at other places in entertainment throughout Hollywood or whatever. And a lot of those places were, to sum up, insane. And Disney had, although there was a level of crazy that happens with Disney, it was more stable than others. Sure. There was, when I started the company, I always say it was still more of a family company than a corporation, where it's moved to being much larger and compartmentalized and those kind of things. And so there was the ability, if you didn't know something, you could call one other person. And if they didn't know it, they'd call one other person and you'd figure out your answer. And people were willing to help one another out. And still, where a lot of the 9 old men weren't working at the company anymore, but they still would come in and they'd give a lecture, or you'd still see them, you could interact with them, and people were willing to help one another out, collaborate, and that kind of thing. Where now a lot of the positions are, you're in this position, that's kind of all you do, and you don't get to touch a lot more other stuff outside of that.
Sure.
So for me, it was curiosity, and it was being available, and it was still the company being what it was at that time. There's been times now that I've tried to work kind of in similar fashion, and it creates issues at the company, because people they don't want that. They don't work like that.
That's just not the culture anymore.
Yeah,
not the culture, and unfortunately, it's a different way that we work. But I think that's indicative of corporations in society, not just Disney, just corporations in general. So I feel very blessed to have come to the company at the time that I did, and see it in the way that I have, and transform in the way that I have. When I was there, Roy Disney was still there, so it was the last assemblage of still this family kind of connection to the company. And Roy, we always say, is the nicest billionaire you'll ever meet. He was accessible, and he would listen to you, to all levels of the company. If you had an idea or whatever, you could go to him and say, hey, Roy, this is what I think, this is what I've heard, this is whatever. And he was very accessible that way.
Wow,
Where there are many levels of management that are kind of siloed off now, unfortunately.
Well, that's really cool. I've never heard, I don't think we've ever talked to anybody that knew Roy and got to work with him. So that's really cool to hear that he was very open.
We'd see Roy, there's Taco Bell, and Roy was the only, you'd see him pull up at Taco Bell in his Ferrari, and he'd get out and stand in line and at Taco Bell to get his, he's a billionaire, and he's standing in line at Taco Bell, and you're like, "Hey, Roy, how's it going?" And you chat with him and stuff. And there's lots of those old stories, I guess, of things. And for me, like I said, it kind of goes back to this surreal factor of, I still find it insane that I've had any connection or interactions with the Disney family at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I still come from it like I'm a 16-year-old fan of Disney or watching those films and stuff. And so to be involved with them, to interact with them, all of that is just mind-boggling to me in some respects. So I'm very humbled by my time, like I said, to be in that strata of Disney history. So
sounds like you're very lucky.
Very, very cool. So next, if I took my notes right, was on to Disney Publishing.
Yeah.
So what was it that you did while you were with Disney Publishing?
So Disney Publishing, again, so when I came over, it was specifically to build Disney English.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That's where Disney English was incubated under Disney Publishing, because it was thought of as only, okay, we're just going to do books and flashcards, published material. And really that job should have been more of an Imagineering job, because we ended up going, not only was it dealing with an international concern like geopolitics and all these kind of things, but also we built the facility, like designing the actual facility, like the school facility. So we would get blueprints, and we make the joke that it was the only thing that was, where most things are built in China and exported to the U.S., we actually built that all here in the U.S. and exported it to China. But we built everything. The blueprints would come and they'd be in Chinese. And so and in metric, they use the metric system where we're all inches and feet here. And so we would be like scratching our heads and trying to interpret this. And, there's lots of funny, silly stories that could be a book on its own about Disney English and what happened there, and the challenges and the internal battles to make Disney English what it was, and the geopolitics of that, and a whole bunch of things. But this was a very interesting thing that they did. And like I said, it opened the door for Shanghai Disneyland and really cracked the door for the Disney company to be in China in a way that they, the Chinese market in a way that they hadn't been before. So
that's really cool, because I'll be honest, before talking to you, I had never heard of the Disney English program. So I think that's really cool that without, that this is kind of like you said, it opened the door for Shanghai Disneyland to then exist. So without this program.
Yeah, so for the company, they had been working already 20, 30 years. They had been talking with the Chinese government about getting a park there. That was always the first and foremost thing for them, was to the same way we have a park in any of the other countries. Yeah. And it was, okay, well, China's a big market, and we would like to be there, and every company would like to be in China. But Chinese government, and China being very particular about the way that their influences come into there, they have a very specific way of looking at those entries, Western entries into that marketplace. So it's been very hard, and Disney had stumbled at a few times in their relationship with China. Most specifically was we had done, when Michael Eisner was still around, we had done a movie called Kundun, which the Chinese government kind of took as an insult because it had to deal with Tibet. And Tibet, of course, is a region which is disputed for the Chinese government. They say that this is part of their one China. Similarly as with Taiwan. And so this talked about the Dalai Lama and all of those kind of things, and they did not really care for that much.
Sure.
So it became an issue enough to where that they took offense to that and even said, okay, well, we're not going to distribute Disney movies here in China for a while. So it really kind of cut off what little pipeline the company already had in China. It throttled that even more. So it took many years, and it wasn't until Michael Eisner, Bob Iger had just come and was going to be the successor, and Michael Eisner came and did an official apology to the Chinese government, and said, listen, this was a misstep. We realize it was a misstep in dealing with you guys, and we should have had probably more communication so there wasn't such offense. And he introduced Bob Iger at that time, and so that kind of started to repair the relationship with the Chinese. But still even then, for China, like I said, Mickey was known. They had started to have Mickey and Donald on cable there, but it was like late at night, like at 3 a.m. in the morning, you could see like shorts. And Donald is called Old Duck Tang, I think is the translation of Donald. And Mickey was there. And they would show these at like 3 in the morning. But gradually, Mickey and Donald were kind of known, but the shorts were, and they were really kind of edited up, the versions that they would do like on the Laugh-O-Gram shorts that they had done. Or I think it was called Laugh-O-Gram. Can't remember. But they'd cut up the shorts to kind of package them better for China and translated them. And their consumer products was small. They had a little bit of stores that had gone out, but China also at that time had a major industry for China is bootlegging. It's counterfeit products.
Yeah.
And everybody trying to find their way. And so making these kind of products. And, even here in America, recently we've had some fans creating counterfeit type products and things. So we have our own issues here in America with that. But China that was major, and they didn't really have a sense of policing that at the time. But with China coming in and some of these countries, China government started making a concerted effort to crack down on that.
Sure.
But again, so these things you would see even when we went to China initially to take some scouting kind of trips and that kind of thing for Disney English, you would see oftentimes apparel and things that just have words and things and icons of things stamped on them. And sometimes these words have no meaning. It's just American words on them that they think, oh, that's cool or whatever, and it looks American, and they would stamp them on there and they'd sell these bootleg type products. Again, the characters weren't having much resonance there, and it wasn't until Disney English came in that we started doing it. And initially with our editorial team, what I call the teachers, and then we came in as the creative team, which balanced that. Our job was to figure out how to put the Disney into the education of that and to be creative with that, where the teachers were really like hardcore. We just want to teach. We don't. I think for me, I always made the joke. I don't think they care if the Disney was in it or not. They came from outside the company. They weren't really familiar with the company. They just wanted to teach hardcore. Like these are the steps about teaching English as a second language. Mm-hmm. So our job was really to kind of figure out how that was. And so initially when we were doing it, we had what was called a magic whiteboard, electronic whiteboard in our classroom and things. And we would create programs or lessons that maybe were dressed up as like Jungle Book. And it would have a jungle character, Mowgli's on there and whatever. But the lesson itself wasn't based around the stories. It was just hardcore English. And what we really figured out early on was that when we'd show that in the Chinese, because they had no relevance to the Disney stories or properties, for them, they're just seeing some random jungle kid there in a jungle. It was just, it didn't mean anything to them. Mm-hmm. And so we realized early on, we have to tell them the stories. And so we started creating like storybooks to tell them the Disney stories and to kind of envelope and encompass that English better, where then it became in the U.S. press and other places, the controversy was, oh, Disney's trying to be diabolical and get these kids to learn Disney. And really it was internally was a kind of struggle between like really how much of that do we do and not do, because that wasn't the mission. Mm-hmm. So it just was a byproduct of what we were doing. But gradually, the kids got to know these characters, and it became an entry point for them. And then eventually, the Chinese, like I said, the Chinese government saw how popular it was, and that China, it wasn't just about trying to put a Western influence into China. It was about like, hey, here's our characters, and here's what we're about, and those kind of things. And so it allowed them to say, okay, listen, we're going to do this. And not only when I know Bob Iger and the executives got the go-ahead from the Chinese government, not only did they get the go-ahead, but they said, we already have space set aside for you guys here, and this is where it's going to go.
Wow.
So they had already been talking about it internally for years. The Chinese government had already looked at that. They knew where it was going to go with their plan and all that. They said, this is a space we have laid out for you. And the first time that I went to because the local office in China had already kind of, I think they had seen the writing on the wall. They knew it was only a matter of time before the Chinese government approved it. Nobody knew if it was going to take another 10 years or another 20 years. So by the time we went in 2008 to open the schools, they had already gotten that indication, because the Chinese government was already kind of looking at the schools as a pretty cool thing and stuff. And we went there. The Chinese office had already set aside in the office space for, okay, this is where the Disneyland offices are going to go when they eventually, this is where we're going to get the workers for the Disneyland, staff to go, Disneyland staff. So everybody was just kind of waiting for these things to kind of click. And that was a big secret when we went there. They took us to the secret floor and they had the building, and they said, this is where all the staff is going to go eventually. So once they say that, so we're like, wow, okay. So yeah, so it's been amazing to be involved with that whole process over my career. So that was really how I came to Disney Publishing, though, was to build that, and that was the publishing point of that. But it's been amazing to see that as part of my career. One person pointed out to me recently, and they said what's interesting about that is how many things connected to China connect to my career. Be Mulan, doing the comic from Mulan, to Disney English, to Shanghai Disneyland, to these different things. And I never really thought about it in that respect, but it has seemed to follow me. So, yeah.
So when you were doing this, okay, you said that you took a trip out there. Were you based out of the U.S. while creating and doing all this stuff when even after it opened and everything, and you were kind of having to oversee from here?
Yeah, so everything was based here. We built it all here in Glendale, on the creative campus here in Glendale, is where our team was based, and built it all there and exported it all to China. Now, China is very interesting in that part of their regulations for education, as well as other books, is, they want to review everything beforehand, censorship type rules.
Sure, yeah.
To see what's coming into their country and what people are looking at, and they have their own maps. That was an interesting thing for our team to find out, was because of these disputed provinces like Tibet, Taiwan. We look at the global map one way, and they see it completely different. So they have a different map. So we were building flashcards initially, and then they would send us, literally, we got a folded map one day, this giant map that went in my cube there in my office, of the way that they saw the world.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so this is the way we have to make our flashcards look because it's for their populace. But we would create books, and part of their rules were those books have to be printed and published, and then censorship kind of looks them over. The Chinese government censors look them over to make sure that they're appropriate. And then if they're not, we get sent back, and they give so there's these middlemen that work within China, and they kind of work with the government and then and kind of give you an idea. They don't really ever tell you point blank, like, this is the thing that you cannot have. They give you a sense of, well, we think if you change this and you change this, this would be better. They give you guidance.
Sure.
So I have heard of other publishers, I don't know if it ever happened to us, where they actually printed up all the books, got it back, and had to destroy all those books and start over.
Oh, no, yeah.
So I don't think it ever happened to us, but that does happen at times. And so you kind of have to feel your way through it. But yeah, we built everything here in Glendale. I went to China in 2008 for what we call the first day of class, for the opening of the schools. Our team went, and that was a little bit of a surreal experience, because we had already been working so hard. Like I said, we built all of Disney English in 9 months.
Wow.
Birth of a baby, from coming in and having nothing.
Yeah.
Having an idea like that, we want to build this thing, to building all the curriculum, all the flashcards, building what the facilities would look like, designing uniforms, working all of that stuff out, to then opening in October of 2008. So by the time we got there and pulling all-nighters and all those kind of things, I was a little burnt. And so it seems like, even when I think back on it now, it seems like a dream. So, because we were there for 10 days in country. And so we were there for the opening of that school. And eventually, I think they got up to, I want to say like 30 schools. Maybe I'm overstating that. At one point, there was the look of getting up to 200 schools in China. That was the idea. But COVID actually ended up, having to close all the schools and things. And so now Disney English is no longer, they had to close it down. Very quickly, part of the issue with Disney English was the scale. Everything's about scale and mass at Disney. The idea was to go and build more Disney English schools and then maybe eventually take it to other countries and, Disney English China, Disney English Spanish, or Disney English this or Disney English that. But when we did studies over taking it to different countries, quickly they realized that those same factors that existed in China, other countries have different factors for education. So like Korea requires, if you have teachers and you do education, you have to room and board your teachers as well as provide transportation, where China didn't have those same kind of things. So the factors like those change within every country, and it made the finances, the business part of that, change dramatically in different areas. And so quickly we realized that the brick and mortar was only going to work, brick and mortar schools, in China alone. So we transitioned to a licensing business and trying to figure out how to do those. And so it was books going, and still it's a licensed business, even with Disney English closing the brick and mortars. There's a great licensing business they have there of doing these educational books and products with other licensees that just use the brand name of Disney English and put it out in their versions around the world and their different products. So while I was at Disney English, besides the schools, and when we started transitioning to Disney licensed products, one of the initiatives that I started was Disney English Toys. Which was a big internal fight because, as I said, Disney English Disney is broken up into different categories.
Sure, yep.
So we have different categories for toys and publishing. And so when I initially said this, which seemed a natural extension of what we were doing, it became a big internal management.
Stay in your lane, Rick. Stay in your lane.
Well, it became profit sharing. And management doesn't like to do profit sharing. And who's going to get the most profit? Is this toys? Or is this publishing now? So it became a whole thing. And literally I was told, yes, stay in my lane. It was a battle. But again, it was one that I eventually won with the support of the China offices because it was a profitable one. My internal executives were not for it initially, but we did it. Part of the issue, the challenge of that is that the Chinese didn't understand what educational toys were. So we got back some initial products from them that were just like they would do like a wading pool and just stamp our here's the alphabet on the side of a baby wading pool. And we were like, that's not really an educational product. They just never had experience with that. So, the Chinese office had wanted me to come there at one point and make a presentation to all the Chinese licensees of what educational products were and what they could try and think outside the box, which is just a difficult challenge. One difficult challenge in many. But we eventually did it, and we made talking Minnie and Mickey dolls that would help teach you English. We made, besides the storybooks, we made a lot of electronic, talking kind of card and pen products and tablets and all those kind of things. At one point, I think it was, I think they said 1,200 products, I want to say, that they
wow.
So, and it made really good money for them. And so that was one of the initiatives that we did there. When I then encompassed Disney Learning as a creative manager, moving from Disney English to that, we started working with other kinds of licensees and products. And so some of the things that we ended up pushing were like the first book series for communicatively challenged kids, which I was very proud to be involved with. So, which was an interesting challenge for Disney to take on too, because we're very much about brand and our own art. So our own art doesn't necessarily mix with any other kinds of art. When you deal with communicatively challenged kids, there are pictograms, what they call pictograms that they use, specific pictograms and a specific design for those and things that other brands and brand managers and things wouldn't necessarily, have wanted to utilize or mix, but it was the only way it was going to work. So it was finding ways to use those pictograms and stuff with our our art and our brands to create these books, not only in Braille, but also for deaf kids, for other kinds of communicatively challenged kids. So,
Wow, yeah.
So I was very, very proud to work with that. And that was the first book series ever done like that. And so we got to do all the classic titles like Snow White and Bambi and all of those, Frozen and Lion King, all of those, and for them in that fashion. So
I got to tell you, Rick,
you've done so much.
When we met you at Disneyana, I thought he's an illustrator. He draws pictures. He's done this thing. I had no idea. This happens to us a lot with interviews, just so you're aware, that we start talking to people and it's like an iceberg. It's like you just know the tip, and then there's so much below the surface.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm looking at this list that Teresa wrote at the beginning, and I'm listening to your stories, and I'm like, who would have known that you sitting in Disneyana with some of your art, which Teresa and I both have some of, signed, that we didn't know at all you had done any of this stuff. Disney English and all of these
really
learning
incredible.
things for kids that have different, learning abilities and stuff like what the heck?
Yeah, well, there's lots of stories, but I think part of this is Floyd Norman and I have talked about this some, it's interesting. For one, is how people get to know people within the Disney company and what they're known for, and then how those people get known, how they become known, what they're known for. And some, there's a lot of talented people within the company, and some seem to rise up more than others. Some of them want to rise up more than others. And I think that there's, going back in Disney, I think that there's a couple things going on. One is, always was drilled into me, even just starting out there, was that the only person's name that should be on stuff is Walt's.
Yeah.
So that's the person that should get the credit and those kind of things. And so that drives things. I think is the second thing is at least for me, is you always kind of grow up and you're taught, well, it's kind of impolite to talk about yourself or to brag or say hey, it's considered bragging or whatever. And so a lot of the things that, I'm surprised at things that fans find out still to this day and rise up. For me, I think part of it was like the covers is what started people finding out about. And it wasn't necessarily something that I was trying to talk about, more so that for me, it was starting out, I had my own website initially, way back. And I had put it up as part of my electronic portfolio that I would show to clients and things. Like, here's some of the stuff I did. And so fans ended up finding that. And that's how stuff started getting out. But it wasn't necessarily a sense of me talking about it other than to other clients. And that was unique because initially, like as a contractor and a vendor, you're not supposed to talk about any of that stuff. And I had in my contract at one point written in that I could go and use it as portfolio pieces.
Yeah.
Strictly portfolio pieces. So the internet was kind of new, and I created this website and I started using that as an electronic portfolio. And I remember even I got called on the carpet for it at one point. A vice president called me in and said, I understand you have stuff up on the internet. And I just said, listen, I have it in my contract and it says I can use portfolio pieces in my electronic portfolio.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he pulled up my contract or not, but he never bothered me about it again. So, but that was kind of the genesis, I think, of why people started finding out about me or my stuff or fans. Then as well, when I came to Disney Publishing, Floyd Norman, who I had met before but hadn't really been interacted with him a whole lot, he was there because his wife, he would come into the office, he was a Disney legend, and he would come into the office because his wife worked at Disney Publishing as an illustrator. So Floyd was there, and I would run into him and stuff. And one day we got to talking, and I was realizing, even though Floyd was a Disney legend, I would see him. He would go to lunch by himself sometimes. And so I would just, naturally, I went over to him one day and said, hey, you want to have lunch? And so we started having lunch together every day for almost 8 years. It was almost every day.
Yeah.
We just became really close friends. And I think in part because I had already been there long enough and I knew about the history and the legacy and these people that he had worked with earlier on, and I cared about it. And so we just connected on that level and became really kind of close friends. But then in part because of Floyd being Floyd and people seeing me with Floyd, then people would want to know, like, oh, who's this guy? And so it wasn't ever a strategic thing. It wasn't ever thought about. It just kind of started happening that fans were like, oh, yeah, what do you do too? And whatever. And then like people would find out. And so that kind of built this thing as well. And so I've been very humbled by it. But I always say these are team efforts. It's not just me. And all of these things are team efforts. I've worked on a lot of things. I've been very grateful and humbled to be involved with these things. And I'm just grateful and humbled that the fans, they have these impressions, these memories that connect with these things that I'm connected to.
Yeah.
So I'm associated with. And that is humbling for me. So yeah, I'm just grateful.
I just think it's such a cool, what an interesting path you took from where you started to where you ended and where you're continuing to go with it. I mean, that's, it wasn't just, you didn't stay in just the one lane. You've used that, you've been creative with that lane. It's all been illustrations, but it's gone to cover art, to education, to,
Right.
I just think that's so cool.
Thank you.
Looks like we're coming in for a landing, gang. But please stay listening until trivia comes to a stop. And then you can walk to the nearest exit. Thanks for listening to the 8th wonder of the world, DL Weekly.
Welcome back to Trivia Land, where we're going to find out the answers to the trivia questions. How do you feel about how you did?
I don't feel terrible.
Yeah, not awful.
No? All right. Well, let's find out together, shall we? Your first listener-submitted question today from listener Tara F. Much of the front seating section of Flo's V8 Cafe in Carsland, DCA is decorated with touches that are a throwback to the 1950s, and most of the memorabilia centers around Flo herself. What was Flo's biggest claim to fame before coming to Radiator Springs? Tag's answer was that he did not have an answer.
That is correct.
And Teresa's answer was the singer in a girl group. The correct answer that we were looking for is Flo was a member of the Motorama Girls.
So
Arguably, Teresa was
There you go.
kind of right that she was a singer in a girl group, but in the
You didn't say we had to name the girl group.
in the supplementary material on the Blu-ray disc release of Cars in 2007, you can learn that Flo first arrived in Radiator Springs touring with the Motorama Girls, where she met and fell in love with Ramon, when Ramon refused to give her a new paint job, not because he was too good for her, but because she was too good to be painted by him.
Aww. That's a throwback. DVD extras?
Yeah.
So what, did I get a half point for that?
I'll give you a half point.
Teresa, who already does better on trivia, begging for a half point.
Yep. I thought it was pretty good, though, that I remembered the thing, but not...
Yeah. Not bad.
And your second listener-submitted question tonight from listener Donna S. In what year did Disneyland start allowing cast members to sport mustaches? Tag saying 2019, and Teresa saying 2021. The correct answer that we were looking for was the year 2000.
Oh.
We were off.
I was closer. I should get a half a point for that.
Now.
Oh, that's a good point. I will not award you that point.
Thank you.
And your third regular round question submitted by producer James. Speaking of facial hair, Merlin, Genie, and most of the dwarves, 6 of the 7, would now be allowed to work at the parks with their full beards as of what year? Both of you sticking to your years of 2019 and 2021. The correct answer that we were looking for was 2012. As long as those beards were kept short and well trimmed.
Wow.
What? Okay, so what just okay.
Maybe it was tattoos.
Yeah, but I thought,
It was much more recently that tattoos were allowed.
tattoos and
And like longer
nail
hair.
polish.
And longer hair.
There was a thing, though, remember we were joking that... Oh. Dang, we just remembered it wrong.
2021, was tattoos and gender-inclusive hairstyles. So there you go. You were right if that would have been the question.
Yeah, I thought it was that because I just remember that the Haunted Mansion, the caretaker on the Haunted Mansion came back with facial hair, and the joke was it was now in the approved guidelines for cast members. I think nail polish was the other thing, too.
Yeah.
Something with nail polish.
Like nails, tattoos, hairstyles. Look at you. I mean, that wasn't the question, but
no,
you were still right.
Good point, Megan. Walt had a mustache. He was out of cast member dress code.
I think when you own the park, you can do whatever you want.
And your fourth and final regular round question from listener Cooper C. There were 4 attractions in Bugs Land. Do you remember their names? Well, your answers were Flix Flyers, Heimlich's Choo Choo, Tuck and Roll's something, Francis Ladybug Boogie, and It's Tough to Be a Bug, giving us 5 attractions.
Yeah, we have a bonus attraction.
The correct answer that we were looking for was Flix Flyers, Heimlich's Choo Choo, Francis's Ladybug Boogie, and Tuck and Roll's Drive 'em Buggies.
Drive 'em Buggies. There we go.
So because you also remembered It's Tough to Be a Bug, kind of an attraction, but not attraction in the format that we were looking for here, I gave you full credit because you got the bonus. So, good job, you two.
Nice job. Good job, Teresa.
And your bonus question tonight from listener Cooper C. How long in seconds was each attraction?
Oh, here we go.
Tag saying 90 seconds. Teresa saying 120 seconds. And I gave a 20-second grace period.
Which is pretty generous.
James did take the time to watch YouTube videos of the attractions. We also had a listener asking the question provided answer. The answer that we have is Flix Flyers at 90 seconds, Heimlich at 110 seconds by James watching YouTube, Tuck and Roll at 110 seconds by James watching YouTube, Francis at 75 seconds by James watching YouTube, and the official listener provided answer of 90 seconds. Point going to Tag.
Good job, Tag.
Woo! It's Tough to Be a Bug was, like 14 minutes or 15 minutes?
Longer.
And that one would greatly skew the whole
Yes.
seconds thing.
Definitely.
I mean, I'll certainly do the math on how many seconds that is if you really want. But, well, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home or wherever it is that you listen to this podcast? Do you think you've got some great questions that you'd really like to hear us ask them sometime? If you've got that perfect question and you'd really like to hear us stump them with it, feel free to send that in to trivia@dlweekly.net.
I also want to say, I'm literally throwing this in here, that I would like to challenge the producers with some questions. So if you have questions for the producers, send them to feedback@dlweekly.net.
That's not how this works.
And
What?
we'll ask the producers some questions.
What?
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.